Hi, I'm Steve Downs. Thanks for inviting me to talk to you today. I'm here to talk about Web 2.0 and your own learning development. What I mean by that is not online courses or formal instruction over the internet, but rather how to use the new tools, weblogs, wikis, things like that, in order to enhance your own learning. I'm going to structure this talk on the basis of 3 principles of online learning. I don't mean that these principles are the be-all or the end-all or that they are definitive of what learning online must be. I'm using them as a handy way to divide the topic. The first of these principles is interaction. I'm including this because I think interaction is an important component of online learning. But I think that social contact certainly enhances learning and is very useful for many people much of the time. The second principle is usability. But for something to be useful, it needs to be usable. It needs to be simple, and it needs to be consistent. It needs to be online learning that you can depend on, that you can count on, that you can use. And the third principle is relevance. That is to say, the learning that you do online should be learning that is relevant to you now. It should be the content you want. It should be in the form that you want, at the time that you want, and in the place that you want. Let's begin by talking about interaction. The capacity to communicate with other people who are interested in the same topic or using the same online resource you are. Well, there are 2 major reasons. First of all, we need the human contact. We need people to talk to. We need the interaction, the support, the engagement, the motivation that comes with sharing our experience with other people. And secondly, we need the human content. We need to know what people know. We need to get the knowledge in their own minds, the things that you can't get from the printed page, or even a video like this one. You can't depend on traditional learning or even traditional online learning for interaction. The typical class is mostly presented in a broadcast model. What you want to do is to use the Web 2.0 tools to build your own interaction network. And in so doing, what you're basically doing here is placing yourself, rather than the content, at the center of the interaction network. In order to build this network, you can use things like email or mailing lists. I subscribe to a number of mailing lists. I use these to keep up with information, to keep up on happenings in the field. A lot of times people put references to web pages or new products, and I also use them to test run my own ideas, to put out my own thinking, my own thoughts, and to see what people say, how they react to them. Another way of communicating online is with weblogging. I use weblogs, again, in order to put my own ideas out there. And I also find it very useful to read the weblogs of other people. The interaction happens when I read their weblogs and I respond to what they have to say, or when they read my weblog and they respond to what I have to say, either in the comments, or if I have something longer to say about somebody else's post, I can leave something in my own blog. Also, online communication allows us to connect directly, person to person, on a real-time basis. One tool that I use a lot is Skype. Skype allows me to call people up all around the world for free. I can chat with them, or I can have a conversation with them online. Another type of application is the instant messaging application. You may have heard of Yahoo Messenger or MSN Messenger. I've used a program called ICQ for many years, and it's allowed me to communicate with my family and my co-workers. Finally, interaction is well supported online through the use of online forums and other tools. Using tools like Illuminate, for example, or Centra, you can set up an online class and have a live back and forth interaction in real time using voice and text. And with these tools you can also present slideshows and share applications. So you can have a very rich interaction back and forth. There are some principles to interaction, and these principles are worth keeping in mind. The first principle of interaction is that pull is better than push. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is this. It's better for you to be retrieving or pulling the content from the web that you want rather than to depend on other people to push the content at you. If you pull the content, if you choose and select the content, then what you're doing is ensuring that you're getting exactly what you want. If people are pushing content on you, they're pushing the content that they want you to see, Now, some of that may be useful to you, but some of it might be advertisement, or worse. Another interaction principle that's really important is to speak in your own voice, to be genuine, to be authentic. Sometimes that's hard. It's really hard doing it in this video here because I'm sitting here with a microphone just under my nose and a camera right there, and, well, that's it. Well, and a clock behind me that sometimes rings and interrupts my session. It's really hard to speak with a genuine voice in a situation like this, but you have to strive for it because that's the way you communicate who you are and the thoughts, the real ideas that you have. Interaction depends on sharing. And that means sharing your knowledge, sharing your experiences, your opinions, and sharing who you are. If you're not able to share, you're not able to interact. And then you'll just be listening. You'll just be hearing what other people say. But again, you won't be hearing the sorts of things that you want to hear. And, it's hard for other people to share what they know with you if you're not willing to share what you know with them. Interaction is the sort of thing a lot of people say, well, gee, I just don't have time. It just takes too long. But really, you have to make it a priority. You have to make habit. You have to make it the sort of thing you do automatically every day. People talk about, oh, yeah, now I got to do my email, and it's like this big chore. But it's not that. Email and these other interactive tools are your window to the world. Email isn't a chore. Well, sure, sometimes if you have spam and things like that, there are chore-like aspects to it. But email is the tool that you are using to communicate with other people. You need to make it a priority. Now, a lot of times in a practical environment, interaction is not provided, and you're going to have to resort to guerrilla tactics. For example, if you're at a lecture like this and no interaction has been provided, say we weren't having a Skype conversation a little bit later, then blog it. Get it down. Make sure you have your reactions to what I have to say out there on the web. If you blog this talk, that just invites me to make a response, and then the interaction is started. If your software doesn't support interaction, add it. A lot of the time, if you're using content management systems or learning management systems and the interaction that's supported is awkward and cumbersome, you can use simple tools like JavaScript to embed comments or RSS feeds into your content management system. Now, I don't really have time to talk about that here. I only have 20 minutes after all. But what I want you to take home with you is that this is possible, that it's possible to embed simple interaction techniques into these cumbersome tools. Also, use what are known as back channels. Go outside the typical conferencing system. If you're in a lecture hall like this, or if you're using online learning, or if you're in a regular classroom, you can still use online communications. You can set up your own private mailing list for members of your class. You can set up Gmail accounts in order to have email access. You can use Flickr and trade photos back and forth. You can send messages back and forth, even during the class with instant messaging. I always encourage that. And indeed, if you're listening to this now and you're online, fire up that instant messaging client and send your comments to other people who are here in this room. You should be having a conversation while this broadcast is taking place. The second major principle is usability. And I think that probably the greatest usability experts are found in the labs of Google and Yahoo. If you look at their sites, they are models of usability. And if you analyze what these sites do, there are two major principles that they use: consistency and simplicity. Consistency in the sense that I know what to expect. Every time I go to Google, every page that Google has, I know how it works. I can understand how it works because it always works the same way. And simplicity. I don't need a manual. I don't need instructions. I can look at it and understand right away how it works. Consistency. As a learner, yes, you can create usability in your own learning by taking charge of your learning and creating consistency in your learning. Let me talk about what I mean. Clarify your first principles. Clarify your understanding of what it is to learn and how to learn. How do you understand learning theory? Do you learn visually? Do you learn by audio? Do you learn by reading? Online learning is supported by all of those methods right now. If you like audio, you can access podcasts. If you like video, you can access YouTube. Organize your knowledge. That way, every time you come back to your learning is organized in the same way. Use something like a content management system, such as, say, Drupal, on your own website, or a wiki, and set up your knowledge base in a nice, clear, consistent way. Simplify the message. Summarize the things that you read. Summarize them again. Summarize them again. Okay, maybe not that much. But the idea here is, as stuff comes in, as you see posts and articles and essays and the like, summarize them in your own words, and then put those summaries in your own knowledge base. This is important because when you go to search for them later on, you're going to use your own words. And it creates a consistent and simple vocabulary to describe all of these resources. Use your own vocabulary. Use your own examples. Use your own language. Don't feel compelled to use the language of other people. One of the developments of Web 2.0 is something called tagging. And what tagging is simply using your own words to describe other people's resources. If you think the word camel is the best way to describe a picture, you use that word. You don't need to worry about some sort of predefined vocabulary. That way, when you're looking for camels, you know what word to use. In understanding usability, there's probably two major ways to look at it. On the one hand, usability is social. It's about social conventions, social vocabulary. It's about having ways of searching your own learning in the way that you search other people's learning. And it's about interacting or connecting your learning with other people's learning. Do you represent things in your mind in ways similar to the way other people represent things in their minds? Are there ways to put those connections together? But usability is also personal. It's about the way you access things. It's about the way your knowledge needs are being met. And so when you're looking at the way you've set things up, or the way you use blogs or email or any of the other Web 2.0 tools, you need to ask yourself, are these tools working for you? Sometimes usability isn't given to you, and you have to go out and take it. Most importantly, if you're working with a content management system or a learning management system, I hate to say this, but it's almost certainly dysfunctional from a usability point of view. And what you're going to have to do is to create your own distributed knowledge management system. To begin with, as I've mentioned before, create a blog and Blogger just to take notes. Now, people talk about blogs and they say, oh, well, blogs, they're just somebody's personal notes. They're like their diary. Well, yeah, that's just it. The blog is a place for you to record your thoughts. It is supposed to work like a personal diary. The people who talk about blogs as publishing, they're the ones who are getting it wrong. If you have photographs, store your photos on Flickr. Flickr is really nice because you can organize your photos in sets and you can tag your photos using your own vocabulary. This makes your photos really easily retrievable. Also, your tags and other people's tags all work together, so that if you're searching for a photo of camels, you can search your own photo sets, or you can search all of the public photos that are available. Another nice thing about Flickr is that they have licensing, Creative Commons licensing, that allows you to share your photos with others and allows you to use other people's photos in your own work. Also, create a Gmail account and forward important mails to yourself. That might sound like an odd sort of thing to do, but one of the things that Gmail supports is easy searching of your emailing. Gmail is one of the original Web 2.0 applications, and it's a really nice web interface for your email service. The nice thing about Gmail, too, is it's independent of your institutional or your corporate email, which means that as you move along in the world, your email moves along with you. Maybe even sometimes use Google Desktop Search. I find it useful for searching emails, searching images, searching PowerPoint presentations, or Word documents that I may happen to have stored on my own website. On my own desktop. Relevance is about getting the information that you want, when you want it, where you want it. There's two major aspects to relevance. First of all, the content, making sure that you get the information that you need. And secondly, location, location, location. Getting the information where you want it, when you want it. Let's look first at the content. There's two major steps to getting the content that you want. First is to maximize your information sources. This is where Web 2.0 shines. Instead of depending on a few newspapers or a few magazines, instead of going from one website to another website, what Web 2.0 provides is RSS. You can subscribe to hundreds of feeds using RSS. And the beauty is, all of these feeds are brought together and presented to you in one simple web page. Google Reader, for example. And to subscribe to a feed is very simple. If you go to a website, if it has a web feed, you'll see the icon at the top of the page. Click on that icon and your web feed reader will take care of the rest. Second, step 2, filter ruthlessly. Remember, you're reading hundreds of sources here. You have to pick and choose. I designed my newsletter so that you see a few headlines, you see a few story summaries, and you pick and choose which articles you're going to read. And that in general is how you should approach content online. Don't think that you have to read everything. It's important that you pick and choose those things that will be supportive of your own information priorities. After all, this is your learning that you're talking about. Other people will try to tell you that things are important, should be saved. Well, if they're important and should be saved, they'll be online somewhere. So you'll be able to find them later if you need them. As for the things that you think are important, then you save those yourself. Second is getting the information where you want it. I can tell you right now, the last place you want your information is in a formal classroom. Why? Because you're taking a class. You don't need it now. You need it when you're out doing work or something like that. So what you want to do for the most part is shun formal classes and sessions in favor of formal activities. That's not to say you should never take a formal class. A formal class is great for an information dump. But if you want information finely tuned to your needs, you're going to have to look to informal methods. What you want to do is connect online pretty much any time or any place you are. Connect when you're at home. Connect when you're on vacation. But don't feel you have to always be connected. Feel free to take time off. Feel free to take time off even when you're at work. I mean, the time that you want your content might not be 9 to 5. It might not be when internet access is normally available to you. Your ideas happen anywhere, anytime. And so what you want to do is take the freedom to turn the internet on, turn the internet off. Access it when you want it, where you want it. You have to understand, I think, that information is a flow. It's not a collection of objects. And what you're trying to do here is not gather a whole bunch of stuff to yourself. The Web 2.0 way is to present information almost as though it were a stream in front of you, and you don't collect from that stream. It's more like you surf that stream. Don't worry about remembering specific types of information. Worry about repeated exposure to good information. That's how you'll come to learn the things that you need. Relevance is determined by function, where you're going to use this information, and it's not necessarily organized by type or category. You don't need all the information about Paris, France. You need the information about Paris that's going to help you here now. Relevance is hard. Relevance very frequently requires guerrilla tactics. You're going to have to develop your unofficial channels of information, your back channels, your blog feeds, and your RSS channels that you subscribe to that aren't part of the official communications network. And that means, to some degree, you're going to have to disregard some of the official ones. Another way to create relevance is to organize the information the way you want. Set up a project page on a wiki. In that project page, link to all the forms and related paperwork. This way, you can organize all of this information so that you have easy access to it. No searching around the shared drives or other cumbersome information sources for you. A lot of times, things like Blogger or MySpace or YouTube are blocked in your institution. You need to demand access. These are things that you use in order to support your own learning, and you need to make it clear to the people who are running computer services that the internet is there to serve your needs. If you can't get access, then route around them. You can access the internet these days wirelessly. You can access it at home. You can access it. Now, I've talked about Web 2.0 in pretty general terms so far. That's because Web 2.0 isn't about the specific technology applications. Web 2.0 is rather about how we organize the web and how we approach the web. And this is as true for learning as it is for anything else. So what am I really saying with this talk? Well, first of all, what I'm saying is that you are at the center of your own personal learning network. Learning isn't about something that is delivered to you in a class or in a book or anything like that anymore. It's about an environment in which you find yourself, a network where you make connections and take part in the interactions and communications with other people. The second thing is, in order to take advantage of this network, which enables self-directed learning, you need to be self-directed. You need to take charge of your own learning, manage it yourself, control it yourself. And third, these principles should guide not simply how we learn, but how we teach. We should be understanding that not only is our own learning to be shaped like this, but that of our students and of our colleagues and our employees. Thanks for letting me talk to you today. And this presentation, the audio, the video, and everything else will be on my website at www.downs.ca.